So I want to ask you, if you were able to have 5 people at the seat of your table, dead or alive, who would they
Who
be
would
and
it be?
why?
Wow, it's a good question. It's a good question. 5 people seated at your table, dead or alive, who would it be?
And why?
I'm gonna think and I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Sure.
Bob Marley needs to be seated at my
Oh,
table.
why am I not
All
surprised?
right, right.
Yeah.
Bob Marley is Bob Marley had certain business things about him. Number one, and he also had a certain level of, even though he smokes a lot of weed like Iman, but Bob Marley's weed smoking didn't interfere from his sensibility
Right. No.
as
Right.
as
That's
as the business.
yes.
He was
Yes.
very business driven and very business oriented. And there's something about how Bob Marley did business that the other guys never understood. If you know Bob Marley and the Wailers, you know that it was Bob Marley, Bonnie Wailer, and Peter Tosh.
Tosh. Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why Bob Marley has gone further than these other 3 men, and why his kids have been able to conquer the space and maintain a status quo years after he has died. I want to know what was that, because Bob Marley had a lot of flocking with him, and there's something about Bob Marley that I would have wanted to learn. So that's one. 5 people sit at my table. I like Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius is a philosopher and I think a king from about 15th, 14th century. I don't know. Do this from a long time. Old and ancient. He's from one of those Greek guys, but he was very good at prophecies. He was good at prophecies, not just prophecy, but I think he was more of like there's a certain flow about Marcus Aurelius, where Marcus Aurelius was very content with what he had, even though he was a king. Him still saw himself as being able to learn. I think he was big on saying, to be a leader, you have to also be a follower, because you have to learn how to follow and how to learn to lead.
Absolutely.
And so I like Marcus Aurelius for that particular region. If Jesus could have sit down at the table and talk to him to ask some questions. Why? Because Jesus is Jesus. Hey, I mean, you hear about Jesus all the time, and you know the significance of Jesus. So to sit down and talk to Jesus would be good. It would be good to sit down with Jesus and talk to Jesus. You know what I mean? And get some questions from him. How did he endure a lot of the suffering that him endure? What was his faith like? Because in faith is what's most significant. Jesus have a level of faith, right? That if I could have like even half of the faith that Jesus have, is a different world we're looking at. Because you want that amount of faith. If you even notice when they walked on water, and Peter walked on water, and Jesus walked on water, Peter said, "Let me do that." And he said, "Well, if you have some faith, and him have some amount of faith, walk for a little bit, and then when him look down and start losing faith, that's what's happened to him." So I would have wanted the faith of Jesus and the whole idea of Jesus being able to, Jesus had a level of balance between, yes, I am holy, but I'm also very real and realistic. That's why him turned over the table of the scribes and Pharisees in the middle of the church. You understand? So in other words, he had that ruggedness to him just to see him. He wasn't just neat all the time and no, I'm going to just turn the other cheek and never mind what no, he had the other edge to him. You could have tell he had the edge to him, especially with the people that followed him. Because after all, think about it, Zacchaeus was a tax collector, wasn't he? One of them was a tax collector. One of them, Zacchaeus, did something different. The other men did different things. These men did different things. So I would have wanted to sit down with Jesus. So that was at 3. Marcus Aurelius, Jesus. There we go. I think I want to sit down with, if I have another person to sit down with, who would it be? Well, I got a chance to sit down with my mentor. One of my mentors is Christopher Blackwell. I'd love to sit with him again and talk to him. Christopher Blackwell is the man who is responsible for Bob Marley. It's always a pleasure to talk to Christopher Blackwell, and Christopher Blackwell is very insightful. He can leave you one-line gems, like one of the gems Christopher Blackwell left me with. Maybe this went into some of my things of business as well. One of the things, I went to him to try to get about $50,000 to do a project, right? You know, I mean, Chris have it. Chris worth over $300 million. Come on, can easily fuck or whatever it is. But He said, no, I'm not going to just give it like that. You know what I mean? And his thing was, I needed to bring him a proper product. And so he said, never forget the number one rule of business: supply and demand. That's all he said. I mean, supply and demand. What do you mean? What do you mean? And then pretty much disappeared. Hey, I've got to go. So it's like an Englishman. So he speaks like this. And he says, never forget the number one thing of business, which is supply and demand. But I've got to go. I've got another meeting. So, just enjoy the hotel and do what you're doing. But outside of that, it was a great performance, and I'll see you after. That sat with me for like about a year. What do you mean? What does he mean? What do you mean by supply and demand? And it took me some time to get through that, but that was very profound. And so I realized that in life, there's supply and demand. It happened in your love life. It happened in a regular business. It happened in everything else. Oversupply the market, then you bring down the demand. You know what I mean? Yes. And, push down the demand of the business. It increases supply. Push up the demand, and then it reduces the supply. So just little things like that, just the way how that moves in tandem from a business space. And I think that has kind of, it has helped. So even when I deal with clients, don't oversell the client, because when you oversell the client tired of seeing it.
True.
Makes sense?
True.
So you oversell. So now you have no demand. Client doesn't demand anymore. Yeah. Right. So that's also another thing that I've seen. So that's a good one to sit with. How much is that? 4?
Yeah. So like one more.
See. I need one more. If I could sit with 4 people. I like the art. It's my favorite art. So maybe this is exactly why I need to do the music thing very, very soon too. D'Angelo. It's my favorite musician. So D'Angelo is one of my. Matthew is a tax collector. Thank you very much, Nanya. Thank you very much for giving me that. Matthew is a tax collector. D'Angelo is just very talented. Like, the dude is just super talented. And so if I could sit down and just ask him questions about his talent, like, why didn't he do certain things? I mean, like, just to question his musical genius, I'd love to be able to do that.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed those answers. So, and this is one that I love to ask as well. And this is actually taken from the late James Lipton from Inside the Actor Studio. So, Oneiltv, when you enter into the pearly gates, what would you want God to say?
I'm glad you were there. That's what comes to my mind. I'm glad that you were there. That's it.
I love it.
Because I did my piece. I did what I was supposed to do. And that's about it. And that's just, it's what it is.
I love that.